You talk about recruit the right talent.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. So recruiting, I've heard Jim Collins say, get the right people in the
Yeah,
seats
right
on the
people in the right
bus.
seats. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But what's
So,
your spin?
yeah. So I think what most organizations, and when I say most, this is how I was running my organization and now observed in others, match talent to title. I need to hire a fill in the blank receptionist.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is a requirement as a receptionist? Greet customers that walk in the door if you have that kind of model, answer the phones, but also there's downtime, light data entry. It's rare that someone will excel in all of those components. I actually had a receptionist who was amazing at greeting customers and that socialization component, horrible at the meticulous data entry component. And therefore, her name was Petra. Petra didn't qualify. And I thought, oh my God, I have to let her go. It's too bad she's not a good receptionist. But the reality is, she's a great social person.
Yeah.
We had a position in sales where we needed that farmer role, someone that maintained relationships. And the epiphany was, oh, Petra, would you also want to do some of our sales components, maintain relationships? She lit up and said, I love that. And by the way, you get to ditch the data entry. Thank God, who we gave to someone else. The lesson was this: don't match talent to titles, match talent to tasks. So instead of having this kind of pyramid structure where we're trying to insert people in the different layers, it became this morphic web-like structure where we had, instead of 10 titles with people doing 10 different things within each title, we had 100 tasks and said, who's ideal for each one of these tasks? And it got rid of that title mentality. That's been a very powerful way to allow people to express themselves in a way that gives them joy, which means inevitably they're going to be rock stars at it.
Yeah. But it sounds like also as part of your process, when you hired her, of course, this was after you hired her,
This was after,
and
yeah.
she was a member of the team. But when you hired her, you confirm, and I'm not trying to hammer you on this, by the way, but you confirmed she was a culture match, or she was a community match, to use your term. She was a community match. She was going to fit with your community, get along well with people. And then it later came up, well, wait a minute, we got her in the wrong role, but you were wise enough to say, but she's a superstar.
Yeah.
So
And
where
I'll
else she
add
can
to,
apply those superpowers?
that's right. And I'll add to that. She was a rock star or a player, whatever the terms are. I've concluded, the collective, they say that 10% of the world are A players. And I confront that. I believe 100% of the world are A players when put in the right position. Everyone is amazing at what they love to do, whatever that may be. So for my small organization, maybe they're not going to be a rock star for me because I don't have those opportunities, but they're a rock
Yeah.
star somewhere.
Yeah.
So I go in with this mentality, everyone's a rock star. The other thing I did with, not with Petra, but subsequent to this, was realizing that pre-onboarding process, when I'm doing the interviews and so forth, there's certain things I could do. And I learned this from the sports industry. This became one of the most profound realizations for me. I used to hire people on experiential talent, meaning what's the resume say? What you did in the past is indicative of your future. Therefore, strong resume, strong future. And I realized with experience that, first of all, that may not be truthful experience. So there's something there. Secondly, what the experience they bring to the table may not be the exact experience I need. I actually may have to untrain them to retrain them in our methodology, in our way. And that becomes more burdensome. And people generally dictate much more of a premium when they come in with experience. And so it can be very costly and hard to find these people. So I was like, well, how can I get people that have the most potential? And I'd argue that potential is the most underrated, but most important ability or talent that people have. If you could be a rock star, where would it be? So the question then came, how do you find people who can develop into being extraordinary people? If you could forecast this, wouldn't that be amazing? And I didn't think any businesses were doing it until I looked at the sports industry. I played sports in college, in high school, and I remember in high school, it was lacrosse was my sport. And admittedly, I was an average athlete at best, but I went to a lacrosse camp. And what they did at this camp is in Hobart, New York, an elite Division III school. They had 500 students there. The coaches were coaching all the students to get better, but then tapping certain athletes on the shoulder saying, hey, you're really good at this component. We'd like to bring you to another field to show you more skills, to play against more advanced players. And they would tap some of those kids on the shoulder to go to the highest level. What they were doing was they were educating everyone, but they were then recruiting talent. They were identifying who has the most potential. And they recruited, I think, 3 players for Hobart. Was not one of them. I did go on to play collegiate lacrosse in Virginia as a result. Well, we can deploy this same approach in business. And my favorite example is Home Depot. Home Depot runs this build a birdhouse workshop. I don't know if you've ever gone to one of those things, but you head down to the Home Depot and they show you how to assemble a birdhouse. What the perception is, it's an educational event where they're going to ingratiate you with the store. You're going to have a good, positive experience. That's what we think they're selling. It is a recruiting platform. What they do is they observe the participants and they look for 3 stages of potential. First stage is curiosity. People show up are interested in the first place. They vetted themselves out from 99.9% of the world because they at least are interested. Next level is desire. Questions, intrigue, supporting others are indications of desire. The highest level is thirst. I can't quit this. I can't stop it. The weirdo who goes to build a birdhouse workshop every weekend is thirst. What Home Depot does is they have an employee there observing those levels of participation, and they will tap on the shoulder, just like the Hobart lacrosse camp, and say, hey, you're showing all of the potential elements to be a great Home Depot employee. Have you ever considered working here? We'd love to give you an application. What we can do as employers, and we do in our own organization now, is instead of recruiting, instead of running ads online, we simply say, hey, we need to hire a bookkeeper. We'll put an ad out saying, hey, we have a bookkeeping workshop. Ever interested in becoming a bookkeeper? Or if we need someone that's advanced, we'll say, are you currently a bookkeeper but looking to advance your skills? That's the class we're putting on. I don't have bookkeeping skills, but we'll hire someone to teach it. We're running a birdhouse workshop. People come in, they even will pay to show up. We're educating them, but in the process, we're observing the participation level. And we'll cherry pick people out of those classes and say, wow, you're showing such talent here. We have a position for this. They didn't know they were actually interviewing for a job, but that doesn't matter because everyone is getting better. Everyone's learning something, and we have the opportunity then to pick the person who's the best fit for us.
I love it as a great idea for scouting, for recruiting. And it reminds me when I coached youth soccer, which I did for like 15 years.
Oh, amazing.
Long time, and ref for 8. But I finally realized it at the end of my tenure, because I'm a slow study, that what I took my team. So my team went up again. We were under 14. We went up against a championship team that had won 65 games and tied 2. Okay. And we were podunk. Okay. So what I did was I told but we were a reasonably good team. So I told my team, what I did with my team was I pulled each player aside and I said, I want you to do this one thing in the game. So it's kind of like the pulling people out of the lacrosse camp. Try this one thing, and then you watch and see whether they can do it. Yes. And we took that team down to the final minute.
Wow.
And one of their players went in the left-hand corner against our goal and arced a shot in the upper V of the goal.
Oh my God, that's like pro level.
Opposite side. Yeah, it was.
Oh my God.
It was a perfect shot. But what could I say? I said, you guys were awesome. But what I did was I did that by focusing on one thing, and it made a change. But I love what you're saying about this, and it also speaks to what I was going to ask you next, and maybe you just explained it, but where you talk about how do you transform struggling employees into superstars.